With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. I'm the president of Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. You can find a link to my work at emailrevealer.com. You can also get an autographed copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator, at emailrevealer.com. Also, asset searches and locates, adoption investigations, emailrevealer.com. I want to remind everybody, too, that we're doing expanding the members section at OppermanReport.com. You should go check it out right now, as a matter of fact. There's a lot of new features there by Shane McKay, our man over there in Ireland, helping us out with the website. And we're adding a commentary section. After every show, I'm going to do about a half-hour commentary, and you'll find that in the members section. He's also updating the documents section. In fact, I just gave him a whole bunch of documents on the Jeffrey Epstein case. There was just a FBI just yesterday downloaded onto the FBI website 8 PDFs about the Jeffrey Epstein FBI investigation back in the 2007 case, and there's some new information in there. I'm going to be doing a whole show on that later. The show is brought to you today by getthetea.com. That is Life Change Tea. As you know, I've been drinking this tea now for a little about 2.5 months. This morning I got up, I went for a bike ride. I was going to go for a swim, but I couldn't because my daughter needed some books at school, so we missed that. But I'll be going on a hike later on. I've lost at least 25 pounds at this point. I'm going to be putting up some before and after pictures too. So check that out, getthetea.com. Life Change Tea. This really will change your life. It really has changed my life. I'm not kidding around. So Life Change Tea. And there's other supplements too on there too. You could check out that Ronnie sent me some supplements that I've been enjoying too as well. Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Check it out. Okay, let's get right to business here. Our guest today is Jabali Smith. He's the author of the book Slave, and he's got a fascinating story. It's kind of a heroic story, a courageous, a victorious story. This guy's in slavery as a child, but we'll let him tell you the whole story. Jabali Smith. Mr. Smith, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Tell us about yourself. Who is Jabali Smith?
So it's how do we encounter ourselves in just a few short seconds? I am a father. I'm a son and a brother and a community member. I have a 14-year-old son who's just about to come live with me, which I'm super excited about, and I pretty much committed and dedicated my life to raising awareness around trafficking issues and child abuse issues, and that's where my life is centered right now.
Okay, and your website is jabalismith.com. That's Jabali Smith.com. And also, too, you got an appearance coming up June 12th at the Rotary in Los Gatos, California. They're going to be talking about your book there?
Yeah, we're talking about the book and really just raising awareness around, trafficking issues today, and also the underlining, really, I would say, the underlining piece behind this travesty, and which I believe is child abuse at its core, right? That's where it kind of all begins. And so, raising awareness around that, and bringing people's understanding to the some of the solutions that are available, and also some of the preventive measures we can take.
Okay, so the book is called Slave, and if correct me, you were you were turned over as a small child to a religious apocalyptic sex cult?
This is true. I was 6 years old, and I was abandoned by my mother to a messianic doomsday sex cult. And we were trafficked. My sister and my brother and I were trafficked across the border into Mexico. My sister was 13, my brother was 10, and I was 6. And my sister was essentially the sex slave, and my brother and I were labor slaves. And after about maybe 12 months or 13 months, my sister ran away to save her own life. And about 6 months after that, my brother ran away, and I was too young to navigate, the trip back, right, to the States. So I had to stay until I was old enough to finally escape, and I did 2 weeks before my 12th birthday.
Okay. Do we know the name of this cult? Is this a cult that we would recognize?
It was a small cult, right? And that's kind of one of the other issues that I speak to, is just, cults in America and the effects of them. And, if the CDC was to do a report on cults, they would classify it as an epidemic, right? A pandemic across the world. So it's very, very common, but it's also very, very under the radar. So this particular cult was a small cult born out of the 60s free love movement. They were called the Om Lovers, and wasn't very big. They claimed to be, or the cult leader himself claimed to be like the almighty creator of the universe himself.
You're right.
To a 6-year-old boy,
right,
could possibly be the truth, right? If your mother's telling you that, and all these adults are telling you that, so it was conceivable for me as a little boy that this might just be the God. Although I thought God was a white guy with a beard in the sky. This was definitely not that.
Now, how did your mother become involved in this cult?
My mother met this cult leader early in the 60s. He was Huey Newton. Huey Newton was the Black Panther founder, and he was Huey Newton's mentor.
Really?
Huey Newton wrote about him, in his book Revolutionary Suicide. And so he was a black nationalist originally, which then kind of shifted his focus because of the free love movement in the Bay Area. He's founded this group called the Sexual Freedom League, and essentially was promoting pedophilia through that organization. And then from Black Nationalist to Sexual Freedom League, he had some run-ins with the authorities. He did some time in Napa State Hospital, and when he came back from Napa State, he was claiming to be the creator. So he obviously went crazy in that time. And while in the Bay Area and in Berkeley, he met my mother, and had a kind of influence over her.
Now, did Huey Newton ever disassociate himself from this guy?
I think in the book he does, yeah.
And what was the guy's name?
He kind of speaks to how he went crazy, essentially. Right?
Okay. And what was the cult leader's name?
So his birth name was William Brumfield, but he was known as Richard Thorne. And then he had other aliases, but mostly through the Sexual Freedom League and through some other organizations, he was known as Richard Thorne.
Okay, now you would think.
I have a really crazy coincidence that we can kind of get into later about just how closely related he is to other people in this community.
Well, why don't you tell us now? It doesn't tell us now.
Okay, well, so let's see. So he was a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
And he, coming out of that religion, you're very exposed to biblical scholarly understandings, I guess you could say. And so he used his understanding and teachings around the Bible to really plagiarize the Bible and claim it as his own. So as he developed his shtick or his game plan, it being religion and God, it turned out that years later, when I came back, I found out that his Kingdom Hall, or his church for the Jehovah's Witnesses called the Kingdom Hall, they were right here in North Oakland, and his brother, who he talked about a lot, coincidentally was best friends with my biological father, who was also a Jehovah's Witness. And we didn't know this until we pieced together years later that, in fact, this cult leader was one person removed from my family besides my mom. My mother and father weren't married, and they didn't stay together after I was born. So when I came back, and my father was Jehovah's Witness, and his best friend was this cult leader's brother. It's kind of an irony.
It's a small world. It's a small world. You know what I mean? Yeah, it really is. It really is. Now your mom gives you over, you and your sister and your brother, to this cult. Where did she go? Did she stay with you, or she left and went on her own?
Yeah, she went out on her own. She left.
Do you know where she went?
Well, she just stayed in the Bay Area. She just stayed here.
And then what was her motivation for turning you over to the cult?
Well, that's a good question. So without dissecting, her psychology, right, and what she was dealing with as a human being, we can just say that she was manipulated, right, by this person, and he had such an incredible grasp of her mind, body, spirit, that he convinced her to give his daughter over to him to be married and be one of his wives, and for her two boys to be raised by this person, by the Creator, by God, such that our souls could be saved.
Okay, but her thinking,
it makes no sense.
No, it makes. I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
But her thinking would be, well, I want to be saved too, and I want to be around the Creator too, instead of leaving, going off her own.
Yeah. So here's the thing. My mother was a very interesting character. She was a bit sociopathic. She was bipolar. She could be very, very tender and loving and kind, and then in the next moment be very, very callous, cold, and unnurturing, right? So part of her, part of how, and I'm just extrapolating from, from history and time. I can't walk in her shoes to tell you specifically, but what it took was this kind of disassociation, right? To allow this person to hand over your kids and just go on with your life, took part of that cold-bloodedness, part of the pain of her childhood experiences, but also the brainwashing of this guy who had her number, so to speak. So when she, so part of it was like selfish, right? Part of it was, I don't want to take care of these kids. It's hard. I got another boyfriend over here, maybe, or I got my whole life I want to live, and this will help alleviate my stress, right? I'm on welfare. I have no job. I have no money. I have no resources. So this could be a way for, me to have it a little bit easier. Simultaneously convincing yourself that this guy was a spiritual guru, leader, creator of the universe, and that we were going to somehow come out better in the end because of it.
Do we know whatever became of your mother, or where she is today?
Yeah, so well, she's passed away.
Okay.
She passed away a couple of years ago, and the part of the healing process when we deal with something like this as a child is for me, I was curious about exactly your questions, like how could you do this, right, to your children, and what was it that compelled you to think it was okay to have your 13-year-old daughter essentially being raped by a grown man, right, and putting your sons through unspeakable physical, mental, psychological, and sexual abuse. And so I faced this question for many years, and it brought on something which I was really not aware of at the time. I didn't have the language to understand it, but I suffered from, well, obviously PTSD, right, post-traumatic stress disorder, but the seasonal depression. So every year around August through October, I would find myself self-destructing in a bad way. Like I would quit my jobs, I would stop paying rent, I would sleep and not get up, or I would consume, enormous amounts of just straight sugar. Like I had this eating disorder. I ate like 10 or 15 candy bars a day. Right? Or I would just when I got older, when I wasn't candy anymore, it became drugs and alcohol. And so I would find myself literally destroying my life for this period of time. And then all of a sudden I would kind of wake up and I'd be like, what am I doing? Wait, I got to get a job. Like I'm couch surfing, I'm homeless. So this happened for many, many years. And as I began the healing process, and as I began to uncover the tools of living, successful and happy and a well-adjusted, compassionate, loving life, I recognized that that there was this pattern. And so a couple of years ago, after I had long since recognized the pattern, I found myself, I had just quit, six-figure paying job, and I was sitting on the couch at my house and I was eating a tub of ice cream. And I was like, wait a second, this is that same behavior that I've always exhibited, and lo and behold, this is that time of year. So I thought, what can I do to break this pattern of depression and self-destruction? Although it's much milder now, right? Although I did quit a very high-paying job, and that was a big step toward being consistent with the pattern. But I recognized it, and mind you, I quit the job. Logically, it made sense, right? I'm gonna quit this job, and I'm gonna write this book, and I'm gonna build this foundation. So it made sense for me in that way. But as I looked at my depression, I thought, and I'm gonna circle back to how this all closes up. But I thought, what can I do in exact opposition of this feeling of depression? So what's the opposite of being depressed? And I thought, well, that would be celebration. So I said, that's right. I said, I'm going to celebrate this time of year, how far I've come, who I've become, and the person and the journey that's taken me to where I am. I'm going to celebrate that. And I said, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what else can I do to break this pattern? I thought, okay, well, the next thing is when I am depressed, I recoil, right? I go inside. So I thought, let me go out and reach out to my community and ask for help, something I never do. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to close the blinds. I'm going to shut the shades and get under the covers. But I thought, let me go out and just talk to people in my community and express how I'm feeling. And I got a resounding response of love and encouragement, and that I had convinced myself wasn't there. But that was another thing. So I was like, yes, this is great. Like, my community is supporting me. You know, I can celebrate this time. I've come so far. What's the other thing that happens in this depression? And I was like, I get really selfish, and I get really like, screw the world, you know, like, I don't care. So I thought, how can I break that? So I decided I would go out and become a volunteer. So I became a CASA. A CASA is a court-appointed special advocate for foster kids. So I became a mentor, right? And so that had significantly interrupted my depressive state of mind and my depressive state, and it was really powerful. So as, you know, God or the universe or the Great Spirit, whatever you want to call that force, would have it, my mother died the next day. So now, I got what I took from that was this: that the universe was saying to me, okay, you want to celebrate this time of year? Well, how are you going to celebrate this, right? And I thought, okay, now here's this woman, my mother, who I cannot help but love, right? Science proves that a child's relationship with any animal on earth have a relationship with their mother, biochemically so powerful that you cannot break it. Children's fight or flight mechanism is reduced when they're around their mother. The reason why, you know, kids don't want to press charges against their mother, the reason why they don't tell if their mothers are abusing them, is because of this biochemical link that we have with our parents, right? You know, so I was like, how can I celebrate this tragedy? And so I had to look at my mother. I had to deconstruct what this human being went through, right? And so my mother was raped by her stepfather and impregnated, and she was sent to New York to have an abortion because back in the 50s, you couldn't, California was against the law. So she was shipped off to New York, came back, her mother disowned her. She was on the streets at 14 and navigated the world after having been raped by someone that was supposed to protect and love her. So I thought, you know, this poor human being, this woman, this little girl, who didn't have the tools, who didn't have the love, who didn't have the infrastructure to support her after a devastating event, grew up to use drugs and alcohol, married an abusive man who knocked her teeth out of her mouth, like all of them, literally, and, you know, became entwined in this free love movement, was susceptible to this particular predator who had her number, right, that could convince her to give up her children. Meanwhile, you know, she's having to deal with all of her past and her drug addictions and all of her things. So I really had to find compassion for this human being. And when I did that, I was able to celebrate her as well. So I celebrated the little girl, my mother, the mother that did love us and wanted to protect us, the woman that needed, the child that needed support and help instead of, you know, the cold, hard streets, right? So to bring it all back, breaking the habit of that depression and how to celebrate tragedy was a profound and heart-opening experience and lesson that happened in her passing.
Real quick, because we got to take a break. Before she passed, did you get a chance to reconcile with her before she passed?
Yes, yeah. I had long since, and we can get into it, after the break. But I've long since forgiven her, and in fact, I've forgiven everyone that trespassed against me.
Yeah, that's so important. You got to release that. You got to forgive, because it's like it takes root. It takes root in your life and grows a tree of bitterness. We'll be right back after this with Jabali Smith, JabaliSmith.com. The book is called Slave. This is a fascinating story, and you can check him out in person if you want to. Check him out June 12th at the Rotary Club in Los Gatos, California, and June 12th. Coming up, we'll be talking about his book Slave and this inspirational kind of stuff he's talking about right here today. We'll be right back with more of the show after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here from Life Change Tea. There's a lot of hubbub about the ramifications of GMOs. First of all, what are GMOs? Genetically modified organisms. Yee! Man-made organisms entering our body, changing and damaging us from the inside out. What's our defense? First of all, not eating them. Second, cleansing from them when we do eat them. Thank God for Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea cleanses from toxins, heavy metals, and helps flush GMOs out of your body. Our unique blend of herbs help cleanse you from the inside out, helping you feel refreshed and clean of yee. We also carry unique one-of-a-kind supplements. So order online at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Rid yourself of the yee that contaminates your food and water. Go to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Get the tea, your best defense.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subhash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company. They're located in India, so you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service. They offer all sorts of business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshoring, research network, customer care, press release, content writing and distribution, and much, much more. Now, you can get a hold of Subhash Technosis by email at info@subhashtechnosis.com. Their website is www.subhashtechnosis.com, and their Skype is ANUSHASUBASH.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing you narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow. Shedding the light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You also do all the kind of different services for you. Online dating service investigations called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites, and we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpent Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here talking to Jabali Smith. You can find his website is jabalismith.com, Jabali. His book is called Slave, and you can see him in person June 12th at the Rotary Club down in Los Gatos, California, June 12th. Get an autographed copy of the book. Now, Jabali, here's this guy, William Brumfield, Richard Thorne, right? And he has such a high-profile connection to the Black Panthers, yet he's got this cult going on. He's raping a 13-year-old girl. He's got kids that aren't his own living with him. How is it? We know all the FBI infiltration of the Panthers and the Oakland police infiltration and the informants they had and all this. How did all this go on under the nose of the FBI and the police and nothing was done?
It's a great question. I have always thought that he was an informant. That's. There was a lot of things that happened along the way that made me think that. But we were on the run from the FBI and the authorities, and he was able to do things like he caught a counterfeiting case and beat the case.
Yeah.
He, we years later we were in Las Vegas, Nevada, camped out in the desert, and helicopters showed up and task force showed up, and they kicked it. Somehow, like, nobody got arrested, and we all were allowed to leave. I don't know. My instinct tells me that he was an informant, but but I don't know. Also, he had kind of disassociated from the Black Panther movement, and he was no longer a black nationalist, right? So he already cracked and became kind of insane. I guess you'd have to be pretty insane to think that you're the creator, of the universe and starting a cult and all that stuff. So they had kind of gone their separate ways as the Black Panthers were really gaining, popularity and members.
Yeah, but still, he had to be on their radar, and here he is committing these horrific crimes. Sure. You'd think they would lift a finger, to rescue these kids. Well, whatever became...
Like when we went into Mexico, we disappeared into Mexico for years.
Well, tell them, before we get to Mexico, whatever became of your brother and sister, where are they today?
My brother is a successful carpenter. He has his own flooring company. And my sister lives up in Nevada.
So basically, everyone survived this ordeal.
Everybody survived, yeah. Now, the impact of that survival and the aftermath was and is still heartbreaking and devastating, and something that requires a lot of attention to to wrestle with and to come to grips with,
Well, give us an idea what you went through when you were dropped off with this guy. Your mother left. What were you thinking?
Well, we had been kind of primed for it, right? Like I want you to meet this guy. This is Om. This is the creator of the universe, right? This is God. He has all these powers. He's done all these things, healed the sick, raised the dead, all that. And so as a little boy, I was shocked and amazed and like, oh my God, like I'm about to meet God, or I just met God. And all these people were following behind him and praising him and rubbing his feet and rubbing oils on him and fanning him with fans and feeding him grapes. I mean, it was, it's convincing for a little boy. So when my mom said that we were going to go on a trip, go on an airplane ride, I was excited to go on the airplane ride, and I trusted that this person who, she was sending me off with was who he said he was. I didn't think that I was never going to see her again. I was tricked.
How many?
Although I did, she showed. So we left Berkeley, and we went down to San Diego, and I saw her one more time in San Diego, before I didn't see her for 6 years or 5, close to 6 years.
How many members and how many followers did he have?
He had, let's see, about 6 women and 3 men. And then myself, my brother, and my sister, and that was it.
No other kids?
Oh, and a ton of kids, excuse me. All of those women had kids. And over that 6-year period that I was gone, they all had multiple children.
And how is he funding all this? How is he paying for this to keep everything going?
So we were trained to commit crimes, right? Cons, conning people. We made and sold incense, and we panhandled, and we hustled any kind of angle we could. Stole things and sold them and did whatever we could.
Okay, and that was enough to support this whole big giant group?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right, you got 5 grown women working 12, 15 hours a day, selling and conning all day, right? They're each generating at least, $500 to $1,000 a day, right? So there was plenty of income.
And what about school? Did you go to school while you're still in the States?
Oh, no, I didn't know how to read or write. I escaped, and I taught myself how to read and write when I came back.
Really? So what'd you do all day?
Yeah.
Did you have a TV set? What'd you do?
No. That's funny. I wish I had a TV set.
It was rare back in those days, anyway.
I mean, I can tell you, quickly, like a day in the life of a slave. Right?
Yeah.
So, first thing in the morning was sexual rituals where I was naked and I was forced to retrieve and offer drinks and lotions and incense and play instruments and sing to these sex acts that he performed with my sister and with other women. After that, there was meditation. No, there was his lectures. So he would do these orations about how he was the creator, and he would go, he would have these orations. And then it was meditation. And then after maybe 2 or 3 hours of meditation time, it was breakfast. And then after breakfast, it was chores or cleaning or assignments. So all of the women, they had meetings in the morning, and he dictated what each of them would do, what strategies they would use. Some would con, some would panhandle, some would sell. One would stay home with the kids. Meanwhile, the kids' duties, while kept naked, we were to either clean, methodically picking up by hand any and every single speck of dust that the floor would collect, wiping every cranny and nook of the bathroom, floors, kitchen, window seals, and ceiling. And then if that was done to his approval, we were allowed to sit in silence. And if we talked, we were beaten severely. If we were able to sit in silence for several hours or stand in silence, depending on his mood, we were allowed to eventually play tennis. So tennis was one of the freedoms that were allowed to us.
Now, was this at a public tennis court?
Yeah, it would be, he'd find a court because he played tennis. So he would find a court, and if we were obedient, specifically if I was obedient, then he would allow me to come along. I could be the ball boy, and just being outside and chasing a ball around a tennis court for me was extreme joy and freedom.
What kind of food did you eat?
All organic, healthy. He was a health nut, so it was beans and rice and vegetables and fruit. Nothing sweet. Anything sweet or processed was forbidden.
And that's fascinating how so many of these cult leaders, they're into their organic food, but they could be so cruel and insane in so many other areas. Like, right. What disconnect goes on in your head? It's just
part of it's part of that narcissist
Yeah.
Self-love, like he loved himself, so he wanted to eat healthy, right? He wanted to live long and eat healthy. But I was nothing more than, a slave, so I didn't really get fed. Part of the punishments for not being obedient or making too much noise was no food, so I was often starved. So I would go days and days without being able to eat any food. Given water here and there, he was. Turns out, as the years went on, he would, share these different events, and some of the things that he shared were the treatment that he received at Napa State Mental Hospital, and of course, he was tortured and abused at Napa State, and so he was reenacting what was happening to him to me. So, no food, isolation, beatings, cold showers, no sleep, all designed to dismantle my identity and then rebuild it as his disciple and worshiper.
Now, this in California, this was in a house or an apartment? What was that like?
What do you mean in California? In the beginning?
Yeah. Were you in a house or in an apartment?
So in the beginning, I was living with my mother. He showed up at my mother's house, and they moved in down below us. And we lived in a duplex. So we had the top one. They moved into the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. But then as we, when we went to San Diego, we went to an apartment. And then as we traveled over the next 5.5 years, we stayed in everything from hotels, apartments, motels, inside the van, inside trucks. I stole vans and trucks with them, and we did a lot of illegal activity and survived however he saw fit.
Now, what about...
We lived outside of a U-Haul truck. Inside of a U-Haul truck for months.
And then what about neighbors and stuff like that? They would see all these kids weren't going to school. You couldn't have been well clothed and well fed. No one reported this?
Sure. We were always moving, and we were always hyper vigilant about keeping security as a number one priority. So that's a whole. I write about all of this stuff in the book, but that was a big security concern and a breach, and we often moved, and the women often got beat if they violated any of the security measures that were in place. And we all learned secret knocks, and we learned how to avoid being followed, and we learned how to avoid being seen. We were professionals in this kind of criminal element of this spiritual cult. One time in Las Vegas, after just arriving, he hadn't quite settled in, and we didn't know what cons we were going to pull or where we were going to settle in. So each day he sent me and the other kids. By now there's probably 9 or 10 of us. This is at the end of the experience. We were sent to this park every day. We were there for 4 or 5 days in a row, and each day that we were there, I noticed a group of women with several children, maybe 5 women with 5 kids each, or something like that. And so they looked to be like a preschool group coming out, bringing their kids to the park. So they saw all of these kids, not in school, and they called truancies. Truancy picked us all up, and I was given a story to regurgitate to anyone that might pick us up, either a stranger or the police. And so I told the story, and they gathered us all up, and they took us to this child protective facility. And after a couple of hours, they were able to determine that I was the most articulate and the most normal of these kids. Meanwhile, you have to understand, these kids are born into this cult, right? So they didn't know anything but this cult,
right?
And a lot of his doctrine was how evil the police and the establishment and the FBI are, right? So there was a name, he called them the Dragonflies. So all these kids are brainwashed into believing that all police are bad and that they're dragonflies. So they are really kind of crippled with fear by this group that we've been picked up. I, having a more cognitive awareness, having come from, a semi-normal world prior to them showing up, was the one that was kind of the caretaker of the rest of the kids. And so I told this story that he told me to tell them, and the CPS women were like, finally when they isolated me, they took me away from the rest of the kids, and they walked me through the courtyard. I saw all these kids playing, and it was about to be lunchtime, and I was like, God, if I could just tell them right now who I am, I could get away, right?
Yeah.
But I suffered from severe Stockholm syndrome, right? I was severely brainwashed, and I was afraid. So as this woman, she's saying to me, okay, so and my name was Scott. I taught myself. We all had aliases. So she's like, so Scott, tell me again what happened. The story. So I regurgitate the story again. She's like, well, that's just not adding up to what these other guys are telling us, Scott, and I just want to understand exactly. So now I'm getting kind of pressured, right? And I'm at this point where in my mind, I'm like, all I have to do is tell her, is just speak up, but I can't. I'm just afraid. And it's a big part of this. This is why I really feel compelled to speak to CPS and organizations like CPS, Child Protective Services, and different nonprofit organizations and anti-trafficking communities about the importance of, and caseworkers, about the importance of being able to get into a child's world, right? And being able to really relate to them. If you can step into a child's thinking in a child's world and dismantle the enormous wall of fear that sits between you, that is the key. That's the instrumental part in getting kids to open up and communicate, what's going on at home. So this woman, she was trying to do that, but she just didn't have the skills. She just wasn't trained well enough to. And I felt like she was more of the establishment, more of an authoritative person. So I didn't say anything. And as she was asking me, the phone rang, ring, and she said, okay, to the person on the other end, okay, thank you, bye. And she says, well, Scott, your father's here to pick you up. So the cult leader had found us and had come to pick us up. So I didn't get a chance to tell them who I was or what I was dealing with or what had happened to me.
How old were you?
Let's see, I must have been, want to say like 9 or 10. Yeah.
And this guy could just walk in with no birth certificate, no paperwork, no nothing, say, okay, yeah, these are my kids, I'm taking them.
Yep.
Amazing.
And you got to remember, like this was a different time.
Yeah, I know.
This is pre 9/11. This is pre like any of the security measures and the things that we have to deal with today. Like I walked back and forth across the Mexican border by myself. My brother went from Mexico to San Diego many times to go grocery shopping, and they never had questioned him. All that you needed really to convince a border patrol person at that time was your ability to speak without an accent. Right. Oh, I'm an American. My mom's right over there. That got you over the border.
No, I'm 55 years old, so I know what you're... How old are you?
47.
Yes. I'm very familiar with the Mexican border as well, too. Okay, this might be a good time to take a commercial break. It's a fascinating story. This is just riveting stuff. Jabali Smith, JabaliSmith.com, JABALI Smith.com. The book is called Slave. You can find it on Amazon. It's in the Opperman Report bookstore. You can check out Jabali Smith. He's going to be in the Rotary Club June 12th at Los Gatos, California. We'll be right back with more of this fascinating story. And now a word from our sponsors.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing you narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow. shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you know you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find a link to Subash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also awakeradio.us.
People are waking up. They're standing up to those pushing pesticides and GMOs as safe alternatives for a starving world. What a bunch of crap! I tell you, I'd rather eat dirt. So I drink Life Change Tea. It's an herbal drink, cleansing my body of toxic sludge and nasty chemicals, and of course, ridding the intruders that are hidden in my so-called food. And by the way, Life Change Tea is non-GMO and organic. No fillers, no yuck. Just a great defense against you-know-what. May the supplement force awaken you. Don't fall to the dark side. Sorry. I went to the movies last night. Anyway, enough said. How do you get that herbal drink and change your life? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. You will awaken. You will get stronger, and you might even lose a bit of weight. So awaken to Life Change Tea and the many one-of-a-kind supplements at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. May the supplement force be with you.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. You can have your ad played here at OppermanReport.com every Friday night, 5 p.m., and Saturday night, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on Friday nights, too, we do a live portion for 1 hour that I just do a live monologue. The ads are very, very inexpensive, and they're also played in the Opperman Report member section. In the member section, you can find all kinds of exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. It's as cheap as $6 a month, $20 a quarter, or $75 for a year. If you contact me directly at oppermanreport@gmail.com, I'll set you up with a little special deal there where you get a discount if you PayPal me directly, and you even get a copy of my book. I want to thank William Ramsey, who helps us produce the show and book guests. You can find William Ramsey, who's an excellent author, at William Ramsey Investigates on YouTube. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Jabali Smith. It's author of the book Slave. You can find his website at jabalismith.com, Jabali Smith.com. Also, too, you can meet him in person June 12th at the Rotary Club in Los Gatos, California. Now, Jabali, you keep mentioning that you guys were pulling these con games. What kind of cons were you doing?
So one of them was we would be in Mexico City, right? And we have a beautiful, tall, white woman with a young, handsome, green-eyed, curly-haired mixed kid, and we would approach tourists, and the con went like this. Hi, I'm sorry to bother you. You know, my brother or my son, whichever felt more comfortable that day, depending on which woman I was with. We are stranded here. Our stuff was stolen, and we're waiting for our parents to arrive tomorrow, but we need money and or food to get us by until tomorrow when they arrive. And we'd be happy to repay you if you give us your, name and number and hotel and where you are. So that was a very, very lucrative con, right? And of course, the marks were always most of the Europeans and Americans, rarely Mexicans, because the Mexican people, in Mexico City, the poverty is, it was overwhelming. So they were less likely to give to an American group versus, just helping the people on the streets that were begging. Other cons they did were they would seduce men into coming back to a hotel, drug them, and take whatever valuables they had.
Okay.
There were, and then of course, thieving, right? Stealing anything and everything that we needed. I became a professional thief. And then, those were.
Now, what about the rolling drunks, and taking people back to the room and thieving, stealing, picking pockets and stuff like that? You must have had small charges been picked up on those kind of things, right? How come nothing ever came out of that?
Getting picked up what? Say that again?
Yeah, like on those petty charges. You must have got picked up by the cops every now and then on those charges. How come no one...
I never did.
Really? And no one, even with these...
I never got picked up. Part of why we were, or personally, I was able to... not get picked up, and let me just back up a little bit. In fact, they were picked up because two of the women went to prison and they escaped. And when they escaped, they found us in Mexico. And how could you get busted? They got busted for fraud. I think it was identity theft or something. That was another thing that they did. They had all kind of state seals from the state of California, so they were making fake IDs and identity theft. So they got busted, went to jail, but somehow were able to track us down in some remote village in, I think we were in Ensenada at the time, or maybe Tijuana. But so, and mind you, I am just a little boy at the time, right? So all of this behavior and all of these things are far above my capacity to understand or catch. So all I can do is kind of guess as to how, these women were able to escape jail and find us in some remote place. And the only thing I could come up with is that there was an outside source. Either he was an informant and he got them off, or there was other liaisons in the States that was passed. I had come back already, but I was 14, and I got busted stealing a cassette tape, and they asked me how old I was, and I was like, I'm 10. Like, you're not 10. I was like, no, I'm 10. And so I was able to convince them not to, because, when you're 14, you get busted stealing, you go straight to juvenile hall. They don't call your parents. You go straight to juvie, and then they call your parents. And I knew that, so I said I was 10. And they were forced to call my mother, to come get me.
And that would be one of these other women in the cult.
Go ahead, say it again.
And that would be one of these other women in the cult who would portray themselves as your mother.
No, I'm sorry. So I fast-forwarded to a time when I was actually back, and I was 14, because I was already back by the time I was 14. But all that to say, I use that example because it was another way in which I was able to avoid being taken to juvenile hall.
Now, I'm curious about this prison break you described. Now, these women were arrested on charges of identity theft, some kind of fraud charges. Now, were they actually...
I think that's what it was. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah. Now, do you know if they were actually sentenced?
They were in jail.
They were in jail.
And I know that they escaped, yeah. And I don't know the details of their arrest.
Okay. And do you know, were they convicted and then serving time in a prison, or were they pre-sentencing, pre-trial jail waiting to be sentenced?
I have no idea.
See,
all I know is that when they came back, they were both beaten up and hurting. I don't know if she fractured her leg or she had a big, giant, hole and blood, and it was bad. But I don't know anything about how that could have happened. I don't know how they found us or any of that.
So wait, they made this escape from custody in the United States in California, and with these injuries to their legs, made it back to some little village in Mexico and found this cult leader.
Yep.
Okay. There's always something suspicious. Whenever you hear about a prison break or a jail break, man, there's always something hinky going on with that, man. 90% of those, even though back in the 60s, there were some legitimate organized prison breaks, the Black Liberation Army and stuff like that. But come on. Yeah. These are the ones.
I don't know if it was, I wouldn't say, I don't think that it was prison. I think that it was some kind of jail.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it does seem incredible, but, I was just extrapolating what I was seeing as a 7-year-old kid,
Gotcha. Now, what about prostitution? Was there human trafficking going on too? Were you people being prostituted?
Well, part of one of the cons was a prostitution, strategy, but it ended up being too dangerous for the women, so that was abandoned.
Okay. Because I'm curious if there was like any kind of blackmail thing kind of going on too, like where he would blackmail people. And what was he doing with all these fake IDs?
Not that I was aware of, no.
And what was he doing with all the fake IDs and the fake equipment? They're selling them?
He was using them to set up, I don't know, bank accounts or whatever, but ordering things. I don't really know.
Yes. Yeah, it's all very, because you were so young. It's all very mysterious.
Yeah, totally.
Now, how did you? I guess we're to the point now where you start escaping. How'd you escape? Were there previous attempts to escape before you finally got away?
No, I didn't. I was brainwashed, and I'm not going to tell you how I did it. You'll have to read the book.
Okay, well, okay, all right. But somehow you managed to. I usually warn people about that, but okay, but now, because people will buy the book.
I don't want to give too many spoiler alerts. I'm giving a lot of good, juicy information, so I want to keep some of the mystery there for people to read.
Okay,
because there's a bigger overarching message in the book that I think people will really appreciate it when they work their way through it from front to back.
I got you, and trust me, I want you to sell books too because it's in my bookstore. So I want to get a commission on those books too as well. And I have the theory that if you tell people and they get engrossed in the story, they'll buy the book anyway. But I know some people think they don't want to tell everything. Okay, that's fine. Now, what about now? So you get away. How did you survive when you got away? You're the 14-year-old kid. Where'd you live? Yeah. Where'd you stay, on the street?
So when I was 12 years old, I made my way back. I found my mother, and I lived with her. And she took me up into the mountains of Northern California. And we lived up there for about, I guess it was the summertime of 1983, 2 weeks before my 12th birthday, I got back. And, so we moved up to the country. And I was telling her, I don't want to live in the country. I want to go back to Berkeley, and I want to see my friends. I had a huge community of people that knew me and loved me, and I had friends that I wanted to reunite with. And I said, I want to go to school. I want to know how to read and write. So she was reluctant about it because, number one, and I'm just guessing, she didn't want me to talk about it, which later she forbid me to talk about what happened. But two, she didn't believe in public school system. So, she discouraged me from going to school. She was like, you can learn how to read and write on your own. Don't go to school. And I was like, no, I want to go to school. So I was 12 years old. I came back, and I was enrolled into the 5th grade. having never been to school before. Well, when the kids in the class laughed at me because I didn't know how to spell Mexico after I had just returned from Mexico, we gave them some story. I was in Mexico with my uncle or something. I was more determined than ever to teach myself how to read and write. So I spent long hours writing the alphabet over and over, A, B, C, D, E, with no, so that my penmanship would be legible, but with no understanding of grammar or punctuation. And so after the 5th grade, I didn't want to go back to school because it was embarrassing. I was ashamed, and I was suffering from severe post-traumatic stress disorder. And so part of my rebellion against that forbidden fruit, I consumed copious amounts of this horrible poison, essentially sugar. Other manifestations of this PTSD were when I got back, I didn't want to sleep in an open space. I was kept in a closet when I was gone. So when I came back, the only place I felt safe was in the closet. And it wasn't until my friends came over and they were like, "Why do you sleep?" They were like blown away. They were like shocked and like just in awe of the fact that I had made a closet my bedroom. And, other manifestations where I couldn't sleep at night because, I slept like with one eye open because, I could at any moment be kicked, slapped, punched, whipped, have water poured on my body in the middle of the night. So I didn't sleep well. So, or I had to stand up for, 18, 20 hours a day facing the wall, like standing in a corner facing the wall. So at nighttime, when I got back, when I tried to go to sleep, I needed this pressure on my feet. So I would have to stand for an hour before I could finally get enough tired to go to sleep. So I'm dealing with all of this. I am trying to assimilate into culture and people, right? I'm a master at hiding what I'm going through, right? And I have this facade on the outside. I'm perfectly normal and happy and funny and engaging, and none of the people that knew me as a kid knew what had happened to me. They thought I was just a fun-loving, happy-go-lucky kid. All the way up until I wrote this book, people are still calling me and telling me, "Oh my God, I didn't know how to." They're just blown away because I was hiding this horrible secret with shame and pain and sorrow and hurt as my motivators, right? I couldn't read or write, but I sure as didn't want anybody to know that. So I hid from humanity in that way. But I also, we were super poor. I had no clothes, and my mother was on welfare, and I had to figure out a way how to survive. So I stole and I dealt drugs. I became a drug dealer. That's how I learned how to do math, is because I was dealing kilos of cocaine when I was 17 years old. But from 13 to 14, 15, I was in and out of my mom's house, mainly on the streets, hustling, couch surfing. Sometimes I slept in, abandoned cars. There was this Enterprise rent-a-car place next to a friend's house, and I would go and sleep in those cars. At night, sometimes they were locked, and I'd have to sleep in the backyard. But many nights of homelessness, and couch surfing. And then finally, when I started making money as a dealer, I could pay for hotel rooms and other ways of. I had girlfriends, so I was on the street surviving. And meanwhile, keeping a secret while trying to teach myself how to read and write and those other things. So let's see, when after the fifth grade, I didn't go to the sixth or seventh grade. I just went straight to the eighth grade because of my age. I was too embarrassed to go backwards, right? And I was too ashamed to let people know of what was going on, and I was forbidden to talk about it. So I used the same skill that I had long since developed while I was gone, which is, a heightened, an acute observational awareness and heightened psychological understanding of my environment. So I was able to communicate in a powerful way with a fairly large vocabulary as a 13, 14-year-old. And my teachers were confused. Like, they saw that I was incredibly bright. They saw that I was incredibly engaging, and I could communicate with them on a level far superior than my peers, but I couldn't do any of the work. I couldn't write any of the papers. I couldn't understand. I couldn't do any of the reading. And I was able to pass because of a broken school system and because of my wit and charm. I ran into my eighth grade history teacher years later, and I told him, who I was and what happened, what I was dealing with at the time. He was like, God, we couldn't figure you out. We had meetings, teacher meetings about you because we just didn't know what was going on. He told me that I tested the second lowest score in the state on the some test I was given. I don't remember what it was. I was like, wow. So,
well, you know what?
That was my life.
Can I answer? Because, listen,
sure.
Kids that are abused and neglected have higher verbal skills and higher cognitive problem-solving skills than the average kid. Now, if I know that, how come these teachers don't know that? They have a whole meeting and they're not aware of this? These are the kids you got to look out for.
Again, there was a different time.
Yeah,
that was 1980s. That was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I kind of knew this in the 80s too. I was, I don't know, man.
Also, the school system is broken, right?
Yeah.
And there are many cases where kids fall between the cracks. And I wasn't falling between the cracks. I was purposely seeking the cracks.
Right. I got you. This is probably another good time to take a break, take a little commercial break here. We're with Jabali Smith, JabaliSmith.com. The book is called Slave. Also, too, now we've been forgetting to mention this, too, but he's got a foundation, the Well Child Foundation. He's the executive director at Well Child Foundation. Do you have a website for that Well Child Foundation?
I do, yeah. It's called wellchildfoundation.com. And we can talk about kind of what the curriculum is there. Also, the full title of the book is Slave, a Human Trafficking Survivor Finds Life.
Oh, really?
A little bit. Slave, a human trafficking survivor finds life.
Yeah, see, because, on the Amazon, it just says slave. Okay.
Yeah, it's a subtitle.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. All right. We'll be right back after this. More messages with more with more of the story from Jabali Smith. Jabali Smith. The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find a link to Subash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also awakeradio.us.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpent Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here from Life Change Tea. There's a lot of hubbub about the ramifications of GMOs. First of all, what are GMOs? Genetically modified organisms. Yee! Man-made organisms entering our body, changing and damaging us from the inside out. What's our defense? First of all, not eating them. Second, cleansing from them when we do eat them. Thank God for Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea cleanses from toxins, heavy metals, and helps flush GMOs out of your body. Our unique blend of herbs help cleanse you from the inside out, helping you feel refreshed and clean of yee. We also carry unique one-of-a-kind supplements. So order online at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Rid yourself of the yee that contaminates your food and water. Go to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Get the tea, your best defense.
You can have your ad played here at OppermanReport.com every Friday night, 5 p.m., and Saturday night, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on Friday nights, too, we do a live portion for 1 hour that I just do a live monologue. The ads are very, very inexpensive, and they're also played in the Opperman Report member section. In the member section, you can find all kinds of exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. It's as cheap as $6 a month, $20 a quarter, or $75 for a year. If you contact me directly at oppermanreport@gmail.com, I'll set you up with a little special deal there where you get a discount if you PayPal me directly, and you even get a copy of my book. I want to thank William Ramsey, who helps us to produce the show and book guests. You can find William Ramsey, who's an excellent author, at William Ramsey Investigates on YouTube.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing you narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
Welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Jabali Smith. The website is jabalismith.com, but also he has a foundation called wellchildfoundation.com. And you can catch him, too, coming up in Los Gatos, California, at the Rotary Club on June 12th. He'll be speaking about his book and giving an inspirational talk there, June 12th. Real quick, I want to go out of sequence a little bit here, just a little bit. About your trek from Mexico to California and when you found your mother. Now, did you have money on you? Did you take a bus? How'd you make your way, a little kid like that?
We had already come back to the United States.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My brother made his way from Mexico City back to Berkeley, California in 1980. I think it was, by himself at 12 years old. Imagine that.
I can't imagine. How did he do it? Did he have money on him?
Yeah, because we had been conning and selling incense, and
gotcha.
And he was secretly stealing money because he was old enough to figure out that this guy was just a man.
Right.
That I was still kind of convinced. I didn't know. But then as I got older, and about the same age as my brother, I started realizing, why does this guy say "ow"? Why do I speak better Spanish than Om, the creator God of the entire universe?
Ah, gotcha.
Why do his knees hurt?
Gotcha. Now, you were talking about your high school education, though. Now, you mentioned before that you had good jobs. You've always been good employment. Did you get a college education? What happened there? Did you graduate high school?
I essentially hijacked college education. When I was 19, I had a girlfriend that went to Cal Berkeley. She had a major in psychology and a minor in sociology. And I went to all of her lectures, but I couldn't do the work. But I learned orally because that's how I learned, not knowing, you know, how to read or write. I learned just auditorily. So I kind of hijacked an education from Cal Berkeley.
So, but you never actually got a degree?
No, I never got a degree. I never graduated high school. I only have 3 years of actual school, maybe 3.5 or 4 years of actual schooling.
Okay, and then you mentioned you had really good employment. What kind of employment did you have?
I was an environmental consultant.
How do you get that without a college education?
It's the same skills that allowed me to survive the streets, the same skills that got me out of precarious situations are the same skills that gave me the belief that I could and can achieve anything I set my mind to.
Yeah, I totally...
I'll tell you a quick story, kind of out of sequence. When I was 9 years old, I had an out-of-body experience. I was in Cuernavaca, Mexico, and it was during a terrible, terrible storm. I was being kept in a closet, and I had a terrible flu, exacerbated by the cold wind that blew under the closet door against my naked body. And this one night, thunder was rocking the house. There was a power outage. The shutters were smashing against the glass and blowing off their hinges. And I was awakened, by the rattle of my door. I thought someone was coming into my closet. And it was, in fact, just the wind. But I woke up dehydrated and weak and malnourished. And I knew that I had to get something into my body. But I was also terrified because I was forbidden to leave the closet, and I knew if I did, I would be punished. But instincts told me that if I didn't get some water or something into my system, I was going to die. So I made my way out of the closet with as much strength as I could muster, and I walked down this extremely long corridor, momentarily illuminated by lightning flashes, making me feel like the journey was just never ending. It was cold and sweaty and hot and naked, and it was bad. I'm sure I had a fever of over 100. I got to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator door, and was relieved to see a bottle of apple juice. I picked up the bottle of apple juice, barely able to lift it to my lips. I was so weak. I had to position my elbow against my rib and place the bottle on top of my hand and tilt my entire body back just to get it into my mouth. I guzzled as much as I could, and the excess dripped down my cheeks and onto my chest. And in the midst of guzzling as much as I could get in, I thought, oh no, I better stop because they're going to notice that the juice is missing. So I reluctantly fought to put the juice back, shuffled my way back to the closet, and upon entering, I was kicked from behind. And I was too weak to put my hands up. And I smashed against the closet wall and fell to the floor. He began to kick me. And it was in that moment, it was in my darkest hour where I found my greatest strength. And that moment is when I came out of my body, and I looked down at him, and I looked at me beneath his foot. And in that moment, I realized I was an overwhelming sense of peace came over me, and quiet. And I realized that I was connected to some power, some force that was unseeable by the naked eye and untouchable by hand, but something that I was connected to. And as I looked at my body from this painless piece, I realized that nothing they did to my body and nothing that they labored to brainwash into me so diligently could ever reach this place. I had discovered the strength of the human spirit, right, of my spirit. And I knew in that moment that I was going to survive, that I was going to make it back home to Berkeley somehow, someday, some way. And I have carried that strength with me ever since. And I have used it to teach myself how to read and write. I used it to speak a second language. I used it to earn a six-figure income, to buy a home, to become a loving, kind, and gentle father. And I use it today to navigate the post-traumatic stress that I still deal with, right? Which is how we kind of started this conversation, with that depression and celebrating it and drawing from this inner strength and drawing from this strength that I was shown that I had that night in that closet.
Back to the seasonal depression, that no one in your life noticed this seasonal depression that you had, because that's such a basic. Many people suffer that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I laugh because there was nothing normal, and there was nothing. I wasn't even on the radar. You have to understand. No one reported me missing. I was gone for 6 years. So there was no access to what we understand as normal. Of people missing. No, I lived in the invisible world of forgotten children.
No, I understand that, but when you were an adult, you said you were suffering from seasonal depression, and people in your life, your coworkers, your friends, your neighbors didn't notice. Hey, Jabali, this happens every winter. This happens every year. No one picked up on that.
No.
Your doctors? You had good six-figure income.
I went to the doctor.
Oh, see, because you had medical insurance, yeah. Okay.
I didn't. Oh, well, at that point, by the time I had successfully built a career.
Yeah.
I had already, been diving into countless books around healing and transformation and growth, So I taught myself this stuff. I taught myself about seasonal. There was no therapist to say, "Oh, you're suffering from PTSD," and blah blah blah. That's all because I sought it out. But you have to understand too. I came from the streets, so my friends were drug dealers and pushers and pimps. Right? That was my influence. Now, if we're talking about my adult life. My friends, I had an incredible wall of impenetrable secrecy that I wasn't sharing who I was or what I had been through. I had everybody fooled. So when my friends, they saw me losing it or being depressed or disappearing, they were like. We came from a tribe of every man for himself, wild wolves. So if I was going to sink and not make it, my friends were like, "Too bad for you," or "Do something about it." Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. And did you ever go into treatment though, therapy for this trauma that you went through?
No, I healed myself.
Then and now your goal now is what are you doing with the foundation?
So the foundation is my commitment to children that have suffered like I did, and what I found was that through music, dance, theater, yoga, and martial arts, as well as cognitive art and music therapy, I was able to access an understanding of self-love and an understanding of self-pride and my ability. And when I was coming up, I was not learning in the conventional way, obviously. So when I figured out that I had this kind of athletic ability and this physical ability, it gave me self-confidence. It helped in my self-confidence. And so I really believe that children who suffer trauma need a foundation of belief in themselves, right? Found through martial arts, yoga. So martial arts for the body, yoga for the mind. Obviously, the cognitive therapy part is also for the mind. But that recipe and the combination of those different art forms were instrumental in my healing and my accomplishments. So I want to give that back.
And what? Now, you mentioned before that you were raised Jehovah's Witness. Are you still Jehovah's Witness now?
No. I wasn't raised Jehovah's Witness. My father was a Jehovah's Witness.
Your father was.
I wasn't raised with my father. I wasn't raised with my father.
Okay. And what is your relationship with your father now?
We have a good relationship. We, I sought him out when I was about 19. I was on this journey. So I set out on a journey of self-discovery and healing. It wasn't, happenstance, right? I was seeking healing. I was seeking, and through my hijacking of that Cal Berkeley psychology and sociology class, I knew that there was a way to find my way out of the darkness. And so I sought out my father to get a sense of my bloodline, right, and why I was the way I was, and how who my people were. And so we were able to nurture a relationship, and partially also motivated, not so much for the sake of our relationship, but for the sake of my siblings. I have 4 siblings on my father's side who I loved dearly and who I wanted to make sure that they knew me and that we would have a relationship as we got older. So I sought them out. I sought out my father, and we were able to cultivate a relationship.
So now, what is the focus of Well Child? Are you helping children that are in cults or just abused in general?
Yeah, children that have been abused in general. Yeah.
And now, coming from your experience now, do you kind of spot this thing? Like I remember, like when because my childhood wasn't that great, nothing like yours, trust me, but it wasn't that great, But when you start raising your own kids, you start thinking, oh my God, what were my parents thinking? When I was this age, they had this. You're right. So did that, when you were raising your own kids, did that bring back a lot of these traumatic memories and stuff?
No, because I had already processed it.
Okay.
But what it did do was it really forced me to be hyper aware of my inner dialogue and who I was being as a man and who I would be as a father, and to be extremely cognizant of any kind of trigger, any kind of post-traumatic sensations around, children's vulnerability or my own vulnerability. And so as I began the journey of fatherhood, I knew that the real challenge was going to be after 6 years old. So from 6 to 12 were the years that I prepared myself for as the years that would be the most challenging, right? Because those were the years where my reality was so scarred. And I can say happily that through the work that I've done on myself and through my commitment to really building my life on a foundation of love and compassion and forgiveness, I was able to pass down to my son love and compassion, forgiveness, and patience, and generosity, in a way that, well, he's 14 now, so the jury's still out. But I think we're doing pretty good. He's an amazing human being, and he's just well-rounded. And this is the one place where I like to brag, because my son is just such an amazing human being, and it was due to in part, obviously it's a two-person job, but it was due in part to that commitment from myself, and also his mother's trust in me and her ability to parent as well.
Okay, and before I got a little off track when I thought that you were raised a Jehovah's Witness. Do you have a faith now?
I do not have a religion that I subscribe to, but I do believe in a higher power, and whatever that force was, whatever that connection was that I connected to that night, is the force that has given me the strength and the ability to navigate the world in a healthy, happy, and positive way. And when I'm in doubt, I bend my knees to that power and that force, and I draw on the strength that it inspired me with.
And the seasonal depression now, how do you cope with that now? What do you do to treat that?
Well, like I said, so that was 2 years ago when my mother died, and I had that, I decided what I would do. And since then, it has dissipated to nearly a non-existent place. Oh, wait. No, actually, so yeah, I have a little story about that. So let's see. Last year, same time, same things were coming up, right? But they were showing up in different ways. It wasn't like there was no job that I was going to quit, and there was no drugs or alcohol, because I don't indulge like that anymore. So, but I was getting challenged by my relationships, and I was having this impatience around people that are in my life that were not being reciprocal in what I thought I was offering to the relationship. So, let's see, it was happening right at my book release, as a matter of fact. My book was released last year in October, and that was that time. And man, things were showing up, and I really believe that we are the creators of our lives. We are the architects of our existence, and we are the producers, the directors, and the stars of our own personal journeys. And we have the power to determine how our life is and what we do and how we respond to the circumstances of our lives. So I was trying to self-destruct, subconsciously, mind you, right? Because I was trying to keep the familiar pattern going. So I did this really stupid thing where I climbed up onto this ladder knowing that there was a risk of me falling, and I fell. I got the flu. My relationships with key people that I love in my life were, very, very challenging. And it was all of these things I was creating, essentially. My subconscious mind was creating these situations in order to have me be consistent with who I had always been. And who I had always been was someone that broke down during this time of year. Now, I had my book launch, my first talk ever. I had 300 people showing up, all these things, all this pressure, and I was being faced and challenged with this depression. And I recognized it in the midst of this event, and I was like, this is my behavior, this is my habit, and I am committed to celebrating this time of year, celebrating my mother's life, celebrating how far I've come, and no matter what happens, no matter what I'm dealing with, no matter how my feelings or my perception of my environment is, I'm going to follow through and commit and complete this journey of completing this book and all of my obligations around it. So I was successfully able to live and be bigger than my depression had been in the past.
Gotcha. Okay, this is a good time to take a break again. Okay, we're with Jabali Smith, and the book is called Slave. What's the long title of the book?
Slave, a human trafficking survivor finds life.
Okay, and you can find this at jabalismith.com, Jabali Smith.com, and also wellchildfoundation.com. And Jabali will be speaking June 12th at the Rotary Club in Los Gatos, California. And now a word from our sponsors.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You also do all those kind of different services for you. Online dating service investigations called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites, and we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
Subhash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you know you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find the link to Subhash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also awakeradio.us.
People are waking up. They're standing up to those pushing pesticides and GMOs as safe alternatives for a starving world. What a bunch of crap! I tell you, I'd rather eat dirt. So I drink Life Change Tea. It's an herbal drink, cleansing my body of toxic sludge and nasty chemicals, and of course, ridding the intruders that are hidden in my so-called food. And by the way, Life Change Tea is non-GMO and organic. No fillers, no yuck. Just a great defense against you-know-what. May the supplement force awaken you. Don't fall to the dark side. Sorry. I went to the movies last night. Anyway, enough said. How do you get that herbal drink and change your life? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. You will awaken. You will get stronger, and you might even lose a bit of weight. So awaken to Life Change Tea and the many one-of-a-kind supplements at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. May the supplement force be with you.
Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Jabali Smith. His website is jabalismith.com. He's got a foundation called the Well Child Foundation, wellchildfoundation.com. The book is called Slave, and there's a link in the Opperman Report bookstore. I was just looking on Amazon right now. There's 23 reviews. Every review is a 5-star review. So, yeah, that's. You got another book coming up. Another book coming in you there, you think?
I'm working on another book right now. Yes, it won't be out though for a while.
Now, well, definitely when it is, give me a call. We'll put you right back on the air. Now, what about this cult leader, this William Brumfield or Richard Thorne? Whatever became of him? Was he ever arrested? Did he die of old age? And what happened?
So my sister attempted to prosecute him.
Okay, great.
But state of California could not prosecute him due to statutory limitations.
Yeah, they just changed that law.
Essentially, he got away scot-free and is dying somewhere. I don't know where. I don't know where he is. I could probably track him down if I wanted to, just because I know how, but I also confronted him about what happened, but you can read about that in my book.
Okay. And what about, have you heard from any... So he's still alive, this guy, today, huh?
I think he is still alive.
Okay, I'll take a look into that. Now what about the other kids in this cult, or the other members of the cult, since the book's come out? Has anybody contacted?
So let's see, 1983, I think I want to say it was. No, that was back in... Yeah, so like 83, 84, there was an article written in the San Francisco Chronicle. And if you go to my website, I think you can see it there. Anyway, it's about how this cult and who they are. And there's pictures of them and everything. And they were... some kids were found in a van that had been an abandoned van. The van that these kids were found in by CPS was the van that I stole years earlier, in 79, 80, 81 maybe. So a lot of the kids were taken from them and put into Child Protective Services. Some of them were already old enough; they were my age, so they weren't in the van that day, and so they continued to live with this guy. And I've run into them. The two eldest boys, who were my age, I've seen them several times over the last 15 years, maybe now 3 or 4 times over the last 15 years. And they seem to be just as how can I say this? I always felt like they were a little bit mentally impaired, right? And so they seem to have that same kind of impairment about them. But having learned how to navigate the cracks again, so to speak. But I don't know to the extent of their health or where they live or anything like that.
So out of all these other kids, you've only run into 2 of them.
Oh, yes. There's more. There's more to the story. So, okay. So my mother was, unbeknownst to me, and you can read about this in the book. She still had a relationship with them when I got back, and she was secretly in communication with these people. And I found out that a bunch of the kids had come in from playing tennis, and they grabbed what they thought was iced tea off of the kitchen counter and began to consume this liquid. And the liquid was an ayahuasca concentrate. So 5 of the kids never returned to sanity after drinking the ayahuasca.
Wow.
If you know anything about ayahuasca, it's a medicine. It's a hallucinogenic medicine from the Amazon, which is used in ceremony to maybe awaken one's spirit animal. There's a whole tradition that I'm not very familiar with around ayahuasca, but the amounts that you drink are half a tablespoon, and they were guzzling it. So many of them are, in fact, today in Berkeley, wandering the streets, fluttering their index finger against their lips as they stand on the corner and out into space.
What a story, man. What a story.
Yeah. And you know what I've just in all the studying that I've done, and all of the introspection that I've done, I've come to an understanding which was very liberating, and it was this: we all have a story, and we're all dealing with something, and we all have faced that dark night of the soul. And if we can extend a little bit of compassion toward our fellow humans in those moments of challenge, like when you're on the street and someone's being a jerk, or someone cuts you off, or somebody's not paying attention, it's in those moments where a little bit of compassion and a little bit of patience and understanding for our fellow human beings will go a very, very long way, because you never know what the person next to you is dealing with and what they have on their plate.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's funny because I was just talking about the same thing right before we started the show. Since I've become vegan, and I've totally given up all meat, it's like your thinking just changes so much. Your whole... you too, you're a vegetarian as well?
I've been a vegetarian and not for many years.
Yeah.
I see. I'm very, not very, but I'm healthily health conscious. So I watch what I eat.
Yeah. But I thought just since I've been detoxed from all that meat and stuff like that, just the other day I had a kill, this big giant cricket was running around my bathroom, and it was half dead anyway, But when I picked it up to throw it in the toilet, I could feel the life in this little thing. Thinking, oh my God, I'm taking the life of this little cricket. Like who would care, right? But I threw it in the toilet anyway. But I did feel it. I did, I felt some kind of. It did affect me. So I guess I'm evolving in some ways. We only got a couple of minutes left. What do you want to leave us with, man? What do you want to leave us with to sum all this up?
Well, I would say that's a perfect example. Is having reverence for life, right? Even if it's a cricket, can become reverence for one's own life and reverence for others, which can become compassion, and compassion can become forgiveness. And what I've found to be the truth for myself, and what's helped me navigate the world, and what's helped me, and what continues to help me do the things that I do, is a commitment to love and compassion and forgiveness, and really sharing that with the world. And like I said earlier, whenever I commit to something, the universe or the creator says, "Oh, really? Well, you love compassion and forgiveness? Is that what you're saying? Well, here is a wonderful opportunity for you to practice that love, compassion, and forgiveness with this gentleman on the street who, has a problem with you," right? So I think if we can all take that moment and take that extra minute to extend some compassion to our fellow human beings, then we can begin to heal ourselves and our brothers and sisters.
That's so true. And forgiveness is so important.
So important.
Why don't you tell the audience how they can get a hold of you, how they can find you and stuff like that, and your website and all those kind of things?
Sure. Again, so the title of the book is Slave, A Human Trafficking Survivor Finds Life. You can find me at jabalismith.com. That's JABALISMITH.com. You can also go to the wellchildfoundation.com, wellchildfoundation.com, all one word. And I'd be happy to, respond and talk and interact with anyone that has any questions or comments. I'm open to learning and growing and developing our ways through this sometimes and often challenging experience called being a human being.
Yeah, and don't forget, you can go meet him in person June 12th at the Rotary Club in Los Gatos, California, and give him something to forgive you for. How's that when you meet Jabali? No, give him some good love and some good vibes there. Thank you so much, Jabali. Okay, as soon as the next book comes out, give me a call, put you on the air, all right?
I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Jabali Smith, JabaliSmith.com. What a story. Okay, I'm going to be doing a little after show about this, little commentary, and I'm going to have a lot to say. Fascinating story. When you hear this thing, though, man, about the connection to the Black Panthers and the prison break and even the ayahuasca and all this, it makes you wonder, right? So we're going to be going into all of that and a lot of different stuff here. Okay, but thank you so much, Jabali Smith. I really recommend the book. If you go on Amazon, you'll see all the different commentary on it. Everybody says it's a really good book. If you like this show and you like this little commentary I'm going to do after this, it's in the OppermanReport.com members section, which our friend Shane over there in Ireland has been updating, working his little Irish fingers to the bone, his little green leprechaun fingers, working them down there to the nub. As he works away on his website, he's been updating things. He's updating the documents. We just added some Jeffrey Epstein documents that just came into my hands last night. The FBI, same day, by the way, coincidental, right? Same day that Trump is throwing his nose at the Justice Department and the FBI about who is this confidential informant you got. I'm going to send my staff over there and go listen to this briefing. And it's the same day the FBI drops this document dump on the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, which, by the way, mentions Trump in there. Okay? It's on the website. It's in the OppermanReport.com. And also all kinds of stuff that mentions they're investigating cases in New York and Santa Fe, San Juan. They're visiting witnesses. They're taking statements. They're serving target letters on other people in the Jeffrey Epstein case. So there were supposed to be many, many arrests in that case. They all got negotiated down. But maybe it's all coming back up to the surface. Maybe you poke a bear too much when you get away with something like that. And when things blow up in your face. And according to Pierce Redmond, he's telling me that NT, that entertainment lawyer, Confessions of a, whatever that website is, everybody thinks he's an entertainment lawyer and everybody's fascinated with it. Got to be somebody I've run into. But anyway, he's claiming that Dershowitz has been meeting with Epstein again in private, secretly. If it is the person who I'm starting to suspect, maybe that entertainment lawyer, additional that gossip there, that would make sense. Because all this stuff is very close to a small world, and the more I get involved, the more I see my eyes are opening up to what I see going on. But thank you so much, Jabali Smith, JabaliSmith.com, and the WellChildFoundation.com. The book is called Slave. You'll find it in the Opperman Report bookstore, and don't forget our member section. We're getting toward the end of the month. We've got to raise those funds to pay all the bills. You know that, as if you cared, right? Oh, Ed's always begging for money. Well, what do you call it? You could help out. Become a member. I'll give you a discount. 13 months for $60. Email me directly at OppermanReport@gmail.com. I've been working some cases lately, so got some. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. I'll talk about it a little bit in the after show member section there, and we'll be talking about this whole case with this Own Love Commune and the Sexual Freedom League. I'm going to be doing a little research into that myself, see if this guy's still alive. Maybe we get him to come on the show. How's that? The guy was Huey Newton's mentor, and then he's running this sex cult, and no one seems to know what's going on. Give me a break. Thank you so much, Jabali Smith, and your book, Slave, in the member section. And tune in to member section. Once they're locked in that car, they think they got to listen to the show. iHeart, iTunes, Spreaker, Podbean, podcast, YouTube, all that stuff played everywhere, all over the place. You can't miss the show. 10 different internet stations, People's Internet Radio, a public streaming network, awakeradio.us, IPM Nation, and now on Ocelli.com, on Chuck Ocelli put us on his station. So you can't, it's rock bottom prices to advertise on the show, and that's how you help support the show. Also become a member, OppermanReport.com, or contact me for a discount, OppermanReport@gmail.com. Thank you so much, John Elite. I'm looking forward to being stalked by all these characters here. He got me hooked up with www.elitedarkesthour.com. That's ALITE. We'll have his book in the Opperman Report book store on our website.